So I've been thinking about doing this for a while, and that is to allow the Hathors to come through and talk to us about current events. I have a little bit of trepidation because when you talk about current events, you could sometimes get banned from these various platforms. So I kind of want to make this attempt without worrying too much about that, but also remaining somewhat safe so that I don't run into that problem. So I'm going to pick a headline here, and we'll see what happens, what comes through. So the first one is, Biden faces long odds in push for more state red flag laws. Okay, so the red flag laws is his attempt to change the amount of guns that are out there based on if you have some sort of past history where you are dangerous in some way, and so that your guns would be removed from you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started and see what the Hathors have to say about that. So I'm not a trance channel. The information kind of comes through while I'm speaking. So I'm going to go ahead and begin speaking about this topic, and we'll kind of see where it ends up going. I'll just allow them to help us understand what the problems are, and or most likely, I'm getting that there's not going to really be any problems with this. But there aren't any problems with anything, and that's kind of where it all comes from. All right, so let's go ahead and start with this. Let's see where we go. It's really important to know that violence is a survival action. So we are trying to keep ourselves alive. And we try to keep ourselves alive with weaponry because we have a deep fear. When we have incredibly deep fears, then really anything goes. Because if you think about the fight or flight response, that is, I am about to die, and so I will do whatever it takes. If I need to kill the person who's attacking me, or the saber-toothed tiger, or whatever it is, then I will do that. If I need to run so fast that they can't even see me, then that's what I'm going to do. So also, when we're in a fight or flight response, especially when it comes to family, our family is incredibly important to us. And the rules go out the window in that case as well. If you think about any post-apocalyptic movie or TV show that you've ever seen, and the characters in the show or in the movie take action to kill other people, and you think to yourself, well, if that were in today's society, that would be a bad move. But because it's in a post-apocalyptic, your family is in jeopardy sort of society or sort of situation, then we're totally okay with it. We don't blame them at all. Most of the time we go, yeah, that's what you got to do because you're trying to protect your family. So when we look at our lives from that perspective, then we're going to think about killing others, and we're going to think about how to not die all the time. That is the way that we're going to look at life. Now, this society, yes, there are situations and there are pockets of areas where that is very much a part of daily life. However, for the most part, in the Western world, in the US and Europe, Australia and some of the others, that is not the case, right? That we do not have to be in a constant survival state. As a matter of fact, we're pretty civilized. We're able to do pretty normal things. We're able to interact with each other. We're able to go out. We can even accidentally piss somebody off, and it's probably not going to turn into anything bad. Nobody's going to die. Maybe it'll be something, we might come to blows, but there's very likely to not be any death. So to be in the mindset that we are in survival mode, that we have to make sure kill or be killed, it's a little bit out of place. Okay, so now we go to this right to bear arms thing. And if we think back to when the country, the United States, was formed, there was definitely a threat of all kinds of different things. So it's very much based on the way that this society has been created. We have to protect ourselves. We have to fight for everything that we're given. We have to fight for freedom. Well, when that is pervasive in the society, then it will continue to be pervasive in the society until a major change or a major shift happens. Since that major change or major shift hasn't completely happened yet, it's only really just beginning, we're still going to see a large portion of the population that is very much based on fear. Okay, so the other angle that I'm getting here is also the fear of evil people doing terrible things to us, fooling us into thinking that we're safe, taking extreme actions at a government level or at a CEO level or at a cabal level or whatever these organizations are that we have talked about, that we have discovered, that we have really gotten ourselves into a frenzy about. So now we think, okay, well, it's not the British and it's not the natives, so what is it? There's always a threat. We always have to create a threat for ourselves because we are survival animals. We are always trying to figure out what the next thing is that could kill us. That's why the news is so popular, because the news is the programming about how you could die, right? Let's watch how you could die today. In today's society, in today's situation, of course everybody tunes in because they're trying not to die. So they're going to watch this. Oh my gosh, there's a hurricane. That's a way to die. Oh my gosh, there's a mass murder-suicide. Well, that's a way to die. Okay, well, how are all the ways that we could die out there right now? What do we need to protect ourselves from? And of course, we watch that so that we can be prepared. We watch that. Many of us have thought things like, okay, if somebody breaks into the house, then here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just jump up out of bed and bark like a dog, even though I don't have a dog, to try to scare the person away. I'm going to bark really loud, right? And I'm going to have my 911 in my pocket, and I'm going to run, and I'm going to do, like, you've got the whole thing mapped out. Why? Because that is how you've survived. All this entire species has survived based on these brains, not based on our tough scales or our razor sharp claws or our sharp teeth. Not at all. We've got squishiness. We're all very squishy and soft and very easily ripped apart. So the only way that we can actually survive is if we go into, how are we going to figure this out? What are we going to do if that happens and if that happens? And so we imagine every possible negative scenario that could go wrong so that we can circumnavigate it. Okay, so backing way back, now that we kind of have that established, now we're looking at there's a government group that wants to remove weapons from people, and there are people that do not want this to happen because they say, oh, well, where do you draw the line? How do you know that this person is a dangerous person and so they shouldn't have weapons? This is just a first step to make us defenseless. Okay, so that is a very fear-based response. If you live in a state where there's an open carry law, and I was in Arizona not that long ago, and I was shocked as I walked around and I saw people with guns holstered, open, wide open, walking into a Starbucks, like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? So we can look at that as all screwed up, but we can also just look at it from this perspective. They're terrified. If you are walking around with a gun, you are terrified that you're going to need to use it. You are terrified that anything could happen and that you are going to die as a result of not having a gun, right? So when we look at the perspectives of those who are making these decisions, there's fear coming from both sides. What's the other side? Well, if the person who is unsuited to have a gun has a gun, then they might kill us. So we've got to make it so that only people who are sane and normal thinking then they could have guns, but the people who are maybe possible criminals or mentally unstable or whatever, they should not have guns because we don't want to die, right? It's all about death. Really, again, you're going to watch the news from now on and go, oh, right, this is the How Not to Die or How I Could Die show. So here's the How I Could Die show, with the fear on one side saying certain people shouldn't have guns, and fear on the other side saying you can't take our guns away from us. It's all fear. So what's the solution? That's what I'm working on every day, and what many of us are working on. It's the opposite. What's the opposite of fear? Of course, it's love. So how could we love all this? How can we love the murderers? How can we love the people who are afraid of being killed, or so afraid that they brandish their gun at any opportunity? It's because we understand them. They are a primitive version of a human being, or just a human being, a third-dimensional human being. They have so much fear in them, we get it. It's just like a child who's afraid. Do we look at the child and go, stupid kid, what does he know? Well, maybe we do, but we also understand that a little bit better. We understand what it's like to be a child. We understand what how they leap to those sorts of conclusions, that they are in danger and that they need to do all this stuff to not die or whatever. So we can look at those who are surrounded by fear and worried about whoever the bad group is that's going to hurt us next, or whoever the bad individual is that might hurt us next. They're both valid because they are coming from that survival mindset. But I think we can transcend the survival mindset. If we know that we are here on this incredible paradise planet to experience all that we can experience, some of those experiences might be near-death experiences or death experiences. We're all going to die anyway, right? When we're here and we look at this world from fearlessness, then it doesn't matter who's got a gun or who doesn't have a gun. It doesn't matter who's going to be shot and who's not going to be shot. We don't need to watch the How I Could Die show anymore, because we're like, whatever, we're going to die anyway. And I have no fear of how that's going to happen, when that's going to happen, what that's going to look like. I'm actually just going to go about my experience here and love every second of it. If you love all, then love is all that you will see. Okay, so there it was. There was my first, channeling as we're talking about a current event situation. It turned fairly broad, but I kind of didn't want to go into such detail because I'm not totally sure how the social media is going to handle me doing this. So let me know what you think of it. Like, what did you agree with me? Did you disagree with me? Did you have new thoughts? I feel like I definitely felt the Hathors coming throughout that, and really it coincides with a lot of the things that they have me talk about all the time. So let me know what you think, and let me know if you'd like for me to do this more on new and other current events. I'm excited to be able to add this to my channel, and if it gets popular enough and you like it enough and you let me know, then maybe I'll do it once a week. So I'll do my normal video, which is usually self-help or something to improve your life. And then I'll do an aspect about current events and what we can look at and how we can look at it from the Hathor perspective. So thank you once again. I love you unconditionally. And I'll see you on the next video.